Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
What if a single hour could stand between the life you have now and the life you've always dreamed of? What if that 1 hour, used with focus and purpose, could quietly yet powerfully change the course of your future? And what if you realized that the key has been in your hands all along? You've just been letting it slip away. Most people underestimate the power of a single, focused hour, not once in a while, but every single day. It's not about magically finding more time. It's about commanding the time you already have. Because 1 hour of deep, deliberate effort doesn't just fill space on a calendar. It builds your future brick by brick. That 1 hour rewires your habits, reshapes your confidence, and restores your sense of control. The gap between average and exceptional? It's often hidden in what you choose to do daily. In just a few moments, I'll show you how dedicating 1 hour a day can rebuild your habits, sharpen your focus, and truly transform everything in your life. 1 hour is not small, it's supreme. You might tell yourself there's no time, yet that same hour slips away every day, wasted on idle talk or waiting. But imagine this. What if that very hour could be used to create the life you want instead of burying it under excuses? You may think it's just an hour, but when repeated with clear intention, it becomes a force. 1 hour a day equals 7 hours a week. That's 30 hours in a month and 365 hours in a year. Almost the same as 10 full-time working weeks. What could you accomplish with that much time? The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they never learn to harness their time. Others spend it. You must invest it. When you commit 1 hour a day to your goal, you're not merely completing a task. You are becoming someone new. You are training your mind to follow your vision instead of your moods. Take, for example, the story of an uneducated clerk who decided to devote 1 quiet hour every night to studying law. In just a few short years, he passed the bar exam and completely transformed his destiny. What made the difference? It wasn't his past, it was how he chose to use his present. Ask yourself, what are you doing with your extra hour each day? Are you letting it dissolve into comfort and distraction, or are you investing it in becoming the person you want to be? Because the life you desire doesn't suddenly appear in a year. It's hidden inside a single hour. Use that hour well, and the world begins to bend in your favor. Waste it, and the world quietly wins against you. Decide now what you want that hour to create. Most people drift through their days, hoping something remarkable will happen, yet nothing changes unless something is deliberately planned. That 1 hour must have a clear target, not just a wish, but a firm decision. You cannot build a tower if you don't know what you're building. Without a defined destination, your hour will be consumed by noise and interruptions. Great achievers are rarely the smartest in the room. They are simply the most focused. 1 hour of purposeful learning, writing, creating, or planning gives you an advantage that wandering minds will never catch up to. But to gain that edge, you must choose. What skill do you want to master? What result are you after? What transformation do you seek? Don't try to chase 5 different dreams in 1 hour. Pick one, plant the roots, and water them every single day. Over time, they will nourish every other part of your life. So I'll ask again, what dream have you abandoned because you believed it would take too long? And what if that belief was wrong? What if all it truly required was 1 focused hour a day and a promise you refuse to break? Train your hour to discipline your mind. The real battle is not with the clock, it's within the mind. The ticking hands of time are not your enemy. Your hesitations are. Your fears, your distractions, your excuses, these are the forces holding you back. Time only exposes the truth, whether you are commanding your will or allowing your will to be commanded by something weaker inside you. The greatest war you will ever fight is not against time, it is against yourself. And this battle is fought every single day, often in the quiet, solitary space of just 1 hour. Discipline is not some rare gift reserved for a chosen few. It is a muscle, one that must be torn, stretched, and rebuilt over and over through repetition, through resistance, and through conscious choice. Every morning, when you choose to sit down and work, to write, to pray, or to train, you are placing another brick in the fortress of your identity. You are shaping yourself into the kind of person who does what must be done, not what he merely feels like doing. And that, my friend, is real power. Too many people chase motivation as if it were fuel they can store up, waiting for it like a train that might arrive only when the weather is perfect. But motivation is fleeting. It fades the moment conditions aren't ideal. Discipline, however, is forged. It becomes the steel that supports your purpose when the winds of laziness and doubt beat hard against your soul. Build on motivation alone, and you are building on sand. Build on discipline, and you are building on solid rock. So use this hour not only to work on a task, but to train something deeper. Your consistency, your obedience to your purpose, your refusal to surrender to delay. This single hour is not insignificant. It is the training ground for everything else you will achieve. 1 hour of undivided focus teaches your brain exactly who is in charge. It reminds your body that you are the master, not the servant. I once knew a man who began each day not with coffee, not with idle conversation, but with a declaration. He would read aloud the words that described who he was becoming, not who he currently was, but the person he had decided to be, and he spoke them with fire in his voice. Every single day, for 1 solid hour, he spoke the same words over and over again. He said it rewired his very soul. Once, he had felt like a leaf in the wind, tossed about, uncertain and afraid. But now, he declared, I am the wind. I decide the direction. And it was 1 hour that did this. 1 hour each morning. Not to impress the world, but to rebuild himself from the inside out. You might be thinking, what if I fail? What if I can't keep the rhythm? But I would ask you this. What if you never even train yourself to try? What if you remain a prisoner to your moods, a puppet pulled by the strings of comfort, a servant to whatever circumstances you're given? There is no glory in ease. Ease only leads to regret born of inaction. But there is power, deep, world-moving power, in discipline. 1 hour a day is not merely about managing your time. It's about transforming your identity. It's about telling your old self to step aside because a new self is being built. You don't have to win the entire war today. You just have to win 1 hour. Win it with intensity. Win it with commitment. And win it with the unshakable belief that the person you once were is not the person you are becoming. And then, do it again tomorrow. That is how real strength is born. So when tomorrow comes, and the first light of the sun begins to touch the earth, when the world is still quiet and no one is watching, show up. Not for applause, not for the outcome, but for mastery, for the inner victory, for the new you. Because when you win that first hour, the rest of the day listens. Protect that hour as if it were a sacred ritual. You will feel the temptation to skip it, to delay it, to compromise it. Resistance will not always come at you with a loud voice. Sometimes, it will arrive quietly, whispering, just 5 more minutes, do it later, it doesn't matter today. But it does matter, especially today. Because this hour, the one you dedicate to your growth, your craft, your purpose, cannot be treated casually. It must be treated as something sacred. You wouldn't skip a doctor's appointment. You wouldn't walk away from a job interview. And you certainly wouldn't ignore a call from destiny if you knew it was ringing for you. So why treat your own future with anything less than that same level of respect? Why give your dreams the scraps of your leftover minutes instead of your most focused, valuable time? Build an altar around that hour, not of superstition, but of pure, deliberate intention. No candles need to be lit, no incense burned, but you must burn with purpose. Prepare your space. Lay out your books. Sharpen your tools. Clear your desk. Close the door. Let the silence speak to you. Make it clear to those around you that during this hour, you are not to be disturbed. Because in this hour, you are building your future, brick by invisible brick. I once heard of a man who transformed his walk-in closet into a study. It was a small, windowless space, barely large enough for a desk. Yet every night, for 1 solid hour, he would vanish into that room. No interruptions. No distractions. Only thought, learning, and writing. He kept this rhythm for 10 years. 10 years of solitude, of sacred, unbroken effort. And when he emerged, he did not come out with just knowledge. He came out with clarity, with influence, with wealth. That tiny closet, as small as it was, became his cathedral. What about you? Where is your cathedral? Where is that one place you protect without apology? That 1 hour you guard as if it were treasure? Because if you do not create such a space, the world will quietly steal it away from you. It doesn't always happen maliciously. More often, It happens casually. A message here, a quick conversation there, a little entertainment, a small distraction. And before you even realize it, the hour you set aside to change your life has been buried under the rubble of convenience. That's why you must be fierce in guarding this hour. Build solid boundaries around it. Defend it from the intrusions of lesser things that try to steal its value. This is not just time passing on a clock. It is a sacred contract between who you are today and who you have the potential to become. And when you break that contract, you're not just losing an hour, you're betraying your own potential. Too many men wait for perfect conditions. They wait for a quiet house, a clear mind, the ideal mood, or an empty schedule before they begin. But greatness does not grow out of convenience. It is born from commitment. It comes from the man who says, "Even though I'm tired, I still show up. Even though the world is noisy, I still listen to my purpose. Even though it would be easier to delay, I still honor my vow." The gap between the ordinary and the extraordinary isn't measured in talent. It's measured in respect. Respect for time, respect for growth, respect for the process. When you give this hour your complete honor, it will repay you by transforming your life. You may not see the changes today or even tomorrow, but that single, consistent hour becomes your teacher, your trainer, your sculptor. It shapes your character, sharpens your thinking, and strengthens your will. It builds a person who doesn't flinch in the face of difficulty, a person deeply rooted in purpose. This is how empires are built. Not in noise, not in chaos, but in the quiet, consistent moments of private discipline. A kingdom is never lost in a single day, and it is never built in one either. It rises brick by brick, hour by hour. The man who respects his time is building a fortress that no storm in life can shake. So tomorrow, when the voice of temptation calls, and it will, remember the vow you made. Remember your cathedral. Close the door, shut out the noise of the world, and declare, "This hour belongs to my future. I will not trade it for anything less." Because this hour is not just another block on a calendar. It is a line drawn in the sand, a clear divide between who you are now and who you are meant to become. Honor it, and you will watch everything begin to change. This is the power of compounding effort. 1 hour may not seem like much in the span of a single day. It often passes unnoticed, wasted in traffic, in idle conversations, in waiting rooms, or drifting away in thought. But what if you claim that hour, every single day? Over weeks and months, that hour transforms into a mountain, a fortress, a legacy that cannot be taken from you. It is the quiet, unstoppable force of compounded effort, the same force that turns invisible drops into oceans. Every repetition matters. Every decision builds on the one before it. One page written, one chapter read, one skill practiced. It may feel small today, even forgettable, but the strength and power you'll have tomorrow are hidden in the patterns you commit to today. Greatness does not announce itself with noise or drama. It grows in silence, in steady, invisible consistency. The man who studies for just 1 hour each day doesn't become a genius overnight. But in a year, his mind is sharper than a sword. His wisdom outpaces luck. Because knowledge, once earned, does not expire. And skill, once developed, does not disappear. Think of the bricklayer who stands before an empty plot with a single brick in his hand. One brick may seem laughable, meaningless, yet he lays it anyway. The next day, he returns to lay another, and another, always with precision, always with care. Days pass, then months, until one morning, without fanfare, he stands before a wall, then a house, then a fortress. That is how mastery is built. Brick by brick, hour by hour. Your 1 hour is your brick. It's not just about intensity, it's about identity. Who are you becoming through the repetition? Because success is never a single event. It is not the result of a lucky break. It is the compounded proof of who you are. A person who shows up every single day. A person who does the work no one applauds. A person who quietly builds in silence. So ask yourself, what are you compounding today? Are you stacking distractions, reinforcing doubt, and feeding hesitation? Or are you building discipline? Are you layering skill upon skill, day after day, until your character becomes unshakable? Because the world is not transformed by what you do once. It changes because of what you keep doing. The single hour you waste today might seem harmless, but waste 10 hours, 50, 100, and you will watch an entire life slip quietly away. Yet the reverse is equally true. 10 focused hours, 50 sharpened ones, 100 devoted hours. That's a life rebuilt, hour by hour. If you can take command of 1 hour, you can take command of your entire life. 1 hour of purpose each day is enough to outpace those who move in short bursts and then collapse. 1 hour of calm, steady execution is more powerful than a week of frantic chaos. Control that hour, and you control the story your life will tell. Because your life is not the sum of your intentions, it is the sum of your repetitions. So claim the hour and make it sacred. Guard it as a king guards his crown. No excuses, no distractions. 1 page written, 1 workout completed, 1 idea explored. Over time, these fragments will form your legacy. The real question isn't whether 1 hour matters. The real question is, how long will you keep pretending it doesn't? Turn your hour into a laboratory of growth. Some men wait for change to find them. They sit still, hoping life will eventually bend in their favor. But the wise do not wait. They create change by design, not by delay. They understand that 1 sacred hour each day can reshape an entire lifetime, not through magic, but through method. That hour becomes a private laboratory, a sacred forge, a hidden workshop where your future self is molded, tested, and strengthened. This hour is not meant for display. It is not posted, praised, or rewarded. It is quiet, it is yours. It is the space where you can stumble in secret, fail without fear, and test daring ideas without the weight of judgment. It is the place where the next version of you begins to awaken, a space untouched by noise, unshaped by opinion, a sanctuary devoted to growth. The world will not hand you excellence on a silver platter. It will not casually drop brilliance into your lap. It owes you nothing, not transformation, not mastery, not success. Excellence must be forged, hammered into shape through solitude, through sweat, and through silence. You must carve out that time when no one is watching and shape something meaningful from it. That single protected hour, repeated day after day, becomes the cradle of innovation. It is the place where dreams are sharpened into actionable plans, and where those plans begin their long march toward reality. 1 hour a day, that's all it takes. It was 1 hour a day that allowed a schoolteacher to become one of the most powerful voices of the 20th century. Every evening, James Baldwin returned from teaching and sat down to write. No audience, no publishing deal, only a fire burning within him. He practiced in private until the world had no choice but to take notice. His hour built a voice that would echo through generations. And this is not just about art, it's about life. That hour could be at your writing desk, your sketchpad, your journal, your lab, your gym, or your place of prayer. The form does not matter. What matters is the commitment, the dedication to step beyond routine and into reinvention, day by day, hour by hour, until your future takes shape. Ask yourself, are you simply repeating the same days over and over, or are you evolving? Are you running endless laps inside your comfort zone? Or are you venturing into unfamiliar territory, exploring, experimenting, risking, in a space you have reserved for your future self to breathe? Because you cannot become someone new unless you create the space to try. You must build an arena where the stakes are low but the growth is high, a place where you can fall and rise again, not for applause, but for progress. That space is found in the hour you dedicate to transformation. The truth is, time is rarely what we truly lack. What we often lack is intention. 1 single hour spent with fierce, undivided intention can outweigh 10 hours of mindless repetition. It is never the sheer quantity of time that transforms you. It is the quality of focus and attention you bring into it. Honor that hour. Guard it fiercely. Make it truly your own, because the future never arrives fully formed. It is rehearsed in the quiet, in the dark, when no one is watching. That 1 hour becomes your rehearsal, your refuge, and your personal revolution. And if you keep showing up to it, day after day, it will become the hour that rewrites your destiny. Use it to align with your higher self each day, to reconnect with the person you know you are meant to be. The world will offer you 100 different versions of who you should become, loud voices, tempting shortcuts, and urgent distractions constantly competing to shape your identity for you. But in the end, only one version truly matters, the one you deliberately choose. That is your real self. And choosing it requires time, intention, and silence. That is the purpose of the sacred hour, not just for action, but for alignment. It is the time you deliberately step away from the noise, not simply to get more done, but to remember who you are becoming. It is a quiet recalibration, a sharpening of the compass. One focused hour to bring your thoughts, your choices, and your emotions back into harmony with the man you know you must become. Because when you fail to align, you drift. You react to life instead of directing it. But when you do align, you stop reacting and start leading. This hour can take many shapes. It might be spent journaling, walking, or sitting in a quiet corner with your thoughts. What matters is not the specific form, but that you do it with complete honesty. Not as a performance for others, but as preparation for yourself. When you reflect deeply on your values, your goals, and your standards, your conscience sharpens, your path becomes clearer, and the fog of confusion begins to lift. In its place stands clarity and direction. I once met a man who, before every sunrise, would sit in silence and ask himself a single question. What must I do today to deserve tomorrow? Not what he wanted, but what he owed. Not what the world expected, but what his soul demanded. That 1 hour turned him into a lion among sheep. He did not rise with the noise and confusion of others. He rose with the voice of purpose. And over time, that voice became his greatest power. We live in an age where momentum often comes without meaning. Many wake up and start running, yet they have no idea where they're going. They chase validation, urgency, and applause, but true alignment requires something rarer: stillness, discipline, and deep reflection. The man who walks with intention has no need to prove himself to the world. His actions speak loudly enough. Ask yourself, are your daily choices shaped by impulse or by identity? Do you carve out time to consciously become someone, or are you simply surviving from one day to the next? Because if you don't choose your own identity, the world will hand you one, and it will never truly fit. It will leave you feeling hollow, without direction, and ultimately unfulfilled. But when you spend that sacred hour in honest communion with your higher self, you are rewiring your entire day before it even begins. You stop chasing meaning because you carry it within you. You become a vessel for what truly matters. And when trials inevitably come, you do not crumble. You stand firm, not because of the noise surrounding you, but because of the clarity within you. The man who aligns himself daily cannot be shaken by opinions. He is not bent by fear, nor broken by failure. Why? Because he is not led by emotion. He is led by vision, by conscience, and by a deeply rooted purpose. So claim that hour. Treat it as sacred. Sit in silence. Write down what matters most. Ask yourself the hard questions. Realign your course. Then rise. Not in reaction to the world's chaos, but in response to your calling. Because when a man walks in true alignment, even the storms of life begin to part before him. Excuses are cunning. They disguise themselves as wisdom. They speak in a voice that sounds like reason. They whisper, "You've had a long day." They say, "It's better to wait until you're ready." Or they deliver the most dangerous lie of all, "You'll start tomorrow." But tomorrow is not a real day. It is a trap dressed in the clothing of hope. The only way to escape it is to carve out an hour so sacred, so unshakable, that no excuse dares to enter. This hour becomes your line in the sand, your non-negotiable. It is not open for debate, nor is it left for the weather, your mood, or your circumstances to decide. You show up whether your energy is high or low, whether your thoughts are crystal clear or clouded with doubt. Because those who truly win are not the ones who always feel ready. They are the ones who show up regardless. Dreams are everywhere, but doers are rare. And what separates the dreamers from the doers? A sacred hour. Not an elaborate master plan, not a flawless schedule, just one uncompromising hour where your actions speak louder than your emotions. It is the space where discipline replaces motivation and where habit crushes hesitation. There was once a young mason's apprentice. Every day he returned home bruised from the work, his body sore from labor, his skin coated in dust. Yet in a small room, lit only by the flicker of a candle, he kept an old desk. And each night, for just 1 hour, he wrote. He didn't know the rules of drama. He had never studied structure. He had no mentors to guide him. Only a burning refusal to let excuses win. That boy became Tennessee Williams. And that one consistent hour became his legacy. Now, what about you? Have you set aside a dream simply because the progress felt too slow? Have you abandoned a goal because the mood wasn't right? What could still be possible if you gave it just one honest hour? Not a perfect hour, not even an inspired one, just honest and consistent. Because your mind grows stronger each time it overrules comfort. Every time you silence the voice that whispers, "Not today," you strengthen the one that commands, "Now." And with steady repetition, the excuses begin to weaken. They knock on your door less often, until, eventually, they stop knocking altogether. That is the true reward of discipline, freedom. The kind of freedom that can only be earned one deliberate hour at a time. You may not have control over every circumstance in your life, but you do control this hour. You may not be able to dictate every outcome, but you have complete authority over your effort. And with time, this hour becomes more than just a routine. It becomes your rebellion, your stand against weakness, against procrastination, against every limiting story you've told yourself about what you cannot become. So make it sacred. Keep it simple. Show up, even when you don't feel ready, especially then, because that is when it matters most. The hour when excuses are the loudest is the hour that will define your future. That is the hour that rewrites your life. The gap between a life filled with regret and a life crowned with greatness often comes down to just 60 minutes. And those 60 minutes are waiting for you right now. Make this hour the place where your faith is strengthened. The world will gladly tell you what is realistic. It will hand you limitations cleverly disguised as advice. It will shrink your dreams until they fit neatly inside a box labeled reasonable. But faith was never designed to be reasonable. Faith is not bound by realism. It is radical. It believes in what has not yet come to pass. It sees the invisible and acts as though the future is already unfolding before your eyes. This is why your hour must be sacred, not just for action, but for belief. It must be the place where your faith is fed, not diminished. A sanctuary where doubt is silenced and vision is restored. Because the world will always demand proof before it allows effort. But faith does not wait for evidence. Faith moves before results arrive. It declares, "Even if I cannot see it yet, I will still build." You don't need guarantees to start. You don't need applause, permission, or the perfect timing. You need only one thing: belief. A belief that your labor is not in vain. A belief that unseen progress is still progress. That even in the silence, something sacred is taking root and growing. You are not wasting time. You are watering a dream buried just beneath the surface. I remember a widow. Her name has been forgotten by history, but her legacy endures. Every evening, she would gather a few neighborhood children and teach them how to read. 1 hour a day. No classroom, no funding, just faith. People told her it was too small, too simple, too late to matter. But she kept showing up, 1 hour at a time, one child at a time. And years later, one of those children grew up to become a senator. Her belief, quiet, persistent, and unwavering, changed the course of generations. So I ask you, what do you truly believe about yourself? And more importantly, does your daily hour reflect that belief? Are you working with faith, or are you sitting still, waiting for proof? Because faith is never passive. Faith does not simply sit and wish. It works. It lays brick after brick, even when the wall isn't visible yet. And when that effort is repeated daily, with discipline and devotion, it transforms into something far greater than a routine. It becomes a force, a fire, a movement. You see, results are not the only proof of progress. Momentum is. Energy is. Identity is. When you work in faith, not just busy, distracted effort, but intentional, believing work, you change the atmosphere around you. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, carry yourself like someone who already sees the finish line, even if no one else can. And that is the true gift of a faith-filled hour. It doesn't just build your goals, it builds you. It trains your mind to act from conviction, not from circumstance. It teaches your hands to keep building even when the rain falls. It teaches your heart to hold its vision, even when the world tells you to let it go. So build your hour and fill it with vision. Let every minute of it declare, "I believe something greater is coming." Do not let the smallness of today deceive you. Every mighty tree began its journey hidden underground. Every legacy once existed only in the unseen. Faith, when proven through steady discipline, becomes a fire no storm can extinguish. Feed that fire, 1 hour at a time. Let the hour be your daily declaration of worth. Time is not just a measure of productivity, it is a measure of value. And each time you devote 1 hour to your own growth, your own vision, and your own soul, you are making a bold statement. I am worth this. In a world that constantly demands your energy, your attention, and your obedience, giving even 1 hour back to yourself becomes a radical act of self-respect. Too many people spend their entire lives serving the visions of others. They meet deadlines, fulfill duties, answer calls, but never answer the deeper calling inside their own heart. They give and give until they disappear inside the roles they play. That sacred hour is your return. It is the moment where you reclaim your name from the noise. It is the space where you whisper to yourself, I matter enough to pause, to build, to dream, to become. This is not selfish, it is necessary. Because no one else can live your purpose. No one else can become who you were born to be. That work belongs to you alone, and it begins with time. I once knew of a maid who worked from dawn until dusk, cleaning houses. Her hands were calloused, her back bent, her days long and exhausting. But every morning, before the sun rose, she painted. 60 minutes, no applause, no guarantee of recognition. Just one quiet hour of color and creation before the world claimed the rest of her day. When someone once asked her why she bothered, exhausted as she was, she simply smiled and replied, because I refuse to believe that all I am is what I do for others. That 1 hour was her rebellion, her sanctuary, her truth. Years later, her paintings hung in a national exhibit. Critics praised her technique, and crowds gathered to admire her work. But the real victory was never in the gallery. It was in those quiet mornings. In the still moments when she chose herself. Even if no one had ever seen her art, she had already won. Because that hour was never about results. It was about the respect she gave herself. So let me ask you, do you respect yourself enough to spend time with your own dreams? Or have you become a stranger to your vision? Have you convinced yourself that it can wait, that you are too busy, too tired, or that it's already too late? Let that hour be your homecoming. Your ground zero. The place where you remember who you are, apart from the roles you play. The space where you meet your future self, not by accident, but by deliberate appointment. Because when you give yourself that hour, you're not just building habits. You're building honor. You begin to carry yourself differently. You speak with more certainty. You act like someone who knows their life has worth. Let your hour be more than a routine. Let it be a daily revolt against mediocrity, a stand against procrastination, a rebellion against the lie that everyone else's needs must always come before your own. This hour is your contract with your soul. It is your reminder that your growth matters, that your dreams are not childish, and that your vision is not optional. Take the time. Hold it sacred. Defend it as if your life depends on it, because in many ways, it does. You are worth that hour. You always have been. Now act like it. Build invisible strength while others sleep. The world celebrates what it can see. Titles, wealth, trophies, applause. We are drawn to the polished, the public, the praised. But true success, the kind that endures, is not built under the spotlight. It is built quietly in the shadows. In the quiet, in those unseen hours when the rest of the world is resting, wasting time, or wandering without direction, the 1 hour you guard each day, the sacred, silent hour, is where true strength takes root. Not the kind that shouts for attention, but the kind that endures. The kind that grows slowly and deeply until it becomes unshakable. You may not have the loudest voice. You may not be sprinting down the fastest path, but you hold the power to prepare, and preparation is the seed from which greatness grows. 1 hour of quiet strength, practiced daily, will outlast 10 hours of noise. Because when the noise fades and the applause dies down, all that remains is what you have built within yourself. So build when no one is watching. Practice when there is no praise. Master your craft when no one is clapping. Because when your moment comes, and it will, you will not be scrambling or rehearsing. You will already be standing firm in your strength, while others are still trying to find theirs. There was once a farmer who rose an hour before the sun each day, not to tend his fields, not to feed his animals, but to study. By the light of a lantern, with hands hardened from labor, he turned page after page. He read history, philosophy, and rhetoric. He sharpened his mind just as carefully as he sharpened his tools. His neighbors laughed. They asked, What use is study to a man who plows dirt? Years passed. Crops came and went. But one day, that same farmer began to speak. He wrote words that moved crowds. He delivered speeches that lifted the broken. He mentored leaders, guided communities, and influenced an entire generation. His name had once been unknown, but the hour he spent in quiet preparation made him unforgettable. So ask yourself, are you strengthening your roots or simply polishing your leaves? Because storms do not test the shiny parts, they test the foundation. And your foundation is built in secret. It is built in the hour no one sees. It is shaped by the decisions no one applauds. Do not be deceived by surface-level success. The man who prepares in silence will always outlast the one who performs for praise. Because when the wind howls and the sky darkens, only one kind of man stands tall, the one whose strength was grown underground. Make your hour sacred. Make it strong. Do the hard things, the quiet things, the things that require faith when no one else is watching. Build your mind, sharpen your skills, and discipline your habits, not for the applause, but for the storm. Because the storm will come. And when it does, titles will not save you. Applause will not shield you. Only preparation will. The man who has prepared in secret will rise in power, not panic. The foundation of your future is never built in the future. It is built now, 1 hour at a time, in the quiet, in the dark, when no one is there but you. Guard that hour as if your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. Let that hour be a time that heals, not just hustles. Too many mistake progress for pressure. They believe that in order to grow, they must constantly grind, that every minute of self-development must be a strain. But the truth runs much deeper. The 1 hour you give yourself each day should not only push you forward, it should also restore you. It should not merely drain you, it should refill you. This hour is not just a tool to get ahead. It is a sacred pause, a moment to return to yourself. In a world that glorifies constant motion, your real power lies in meaning. And meaning does not come from speed or volume. It comes from depth. Let this hour take you deeper. Let it be the space where you reconnect with your soul, your dreams, and your inner compass. Not to hustle harder, but to listen more clearly. Whether you spend it walking, writing, praying, stretching, reading, or simply sitting in stillness. Your hour is your place of reconnection. Life will pull you in 1,000 directions. Deadlines will shout. Responsibilities will multiply. Expectations will tighten. But that hour, it brings you home. It whispers, you are not just a worker. You are not just a provider. You are not just a role to be played. You are a soul, a living, breathing soul, in pursuit of peace, purpose, and wholeness. There was once a young mother whose days were filled with noise, diapers, dishes, errands, and endless giving. But each night, when the house finally grew quiet, she would take 60 minutes to write letters to her future self. These weren't goals or checklists. They were simply her thoughts, her feelings, her hopes. In that sacred space, she discovered something rare: peace, not just productivity. She wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. She was simply allowing herself to be. And when the storms of life came, and they did, she returned to those letters. She read her own words and remembered her own strength. That 1 hour didn't just keep her moving forward, it kept her grounded. What if your hour wasn't about chasing more, but about becoming whole? What if it wasn't just time you spent to improve, but the time you needed to remember who you are, to realign your values, to breathe your own air, to ask yourself the questions no one else will? Who am I becoming? What am I truly seeking? Am I living, or am I merely existing? Because the world will hand you a million tasks to complete, but only you can give yourself truth. That is what this hour is for. It is the space between your doing and your being. And it is in that space where your direction becomes clear. You are not a machine. You are not measured by how much you move, but by where you are headed. You are not here simply to complete tasks. You are here to become someone, to grow into the person your younger self dreamed of, and the person your future self will depend on. And those choices are made in these quiet, intentional moments. Let your hour be more than a productivity hack. Let it be your compass, a place where you recalibrate, where you strip away the noise and the pretending and meet yourself again. Because when you use your hour to realign and restore, you don't just become more effective, you become more alive, more centered, and more powerful in a way that no external measurement can define. Protect this hour. Cherish it. Not because it pushes you further ahead, but because it pulls you back to your truth, to your worth, to yourself. Use this hour to rewrite your identity. The man who truly changes his life must first change the way he sees himself. No transformation begins with action alone. It begins with identity. Who you believe you are sets the tone for every decision you make, every risk you take, and every step you choose to move forward. An identity is not something fixed. It is forged, shaped by intention, and molded through repetition. The hour you claim each day is your forge. This is where you strip away the version of yourself you were told to be. It is the place where you set fire to the image that no longer fits. This hour is both your mirror and your anvil. Here, you do not react to the labels others have placed on you. You redefine yourself. You cannot walk through life acting like a failure and expect to reap the rewards of a victor. You cannot carry the language of limitation and expect to step into expansion. So each day, declare who you are becoming. Speak it aloud. Write it down. Walk in it, even before it feels true. Because identity, once claimed and lived in, begins to solidify into reality. It does not start with evidence. It begins with belief. There was once a shy tailor, soft-spoken, invisible to most. Yet within him burned a quiet desire to lead, to speak, to make a difference. Every morning, before opening his shop, he would spend 1 hour alone practicing speeches, speaking to the walls, speaking into the silence. His neighbors mocked him. His customers laughed. But he kept showing up, 1 hour, every day. He didn't wait for an invitation. He prepared until he could no longer be ignored. And in time, that quiet tailor became a statesman. His voice echoed across nations. His words moved parliaments. And it all began with a single daily hour and a new vision of who he was becoming. So ask yourself, are you still seeing yourself through yesterday's eyes? Are you dragging old stories into a new season? Are you rehearsing doubts that were never yours to keep? Or are you daring to draw a new vision? One where your habits finally match your hopes? One where your daily rituals truly reflect the man you are choosing to become? Because this hour is more than just a block of time. It is a statement, a declaration of ownership over your life. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are not bound by what others have said about you. You are defined by what you decide to become, 1 hour at a time. Let this hour be the birthplace of a new you. Not one born from fantasy or wishful thinking, but from focus and deliberate choice. A you who commands the day with clarity. A you who creates instead of waits. A you who confronts fear in private long before meeting it in public. This is your identity hour, not to chase endless tasks, but to become someone intentional, someone unshakable. It is the time to align your actions with your future, to remind your body, mind, and spirit who is in charge of this life. And the truth is, no one else can forge this identity for you. No amount of applause can hand it to you. It must be claimed, shaped, and lived into existence. Each time you show up, you reinforce the reality you are building. Every time you step into the image of your future self, you place another brick in the path from vision to reality. Speak boldly, even if the only ones listening are the walls. Act with consistency, even if the only witness is your own reflection. Because real change does not wait for an audience. It begins the moment you do. And the man who reshapes his identity will quickly find that life begins to shift in his favor. Let this hour be the seed of your legacy. The greatest men in history are not remembered for the possessions they owned, the size of their homes, the wealth stored in their vaults, or the titles beside their names. They are remembered for what they built, the impact they carved into the fabric of the world. And what they built did not begin with applause or public recognition. It began in the quiet. Their legacies were not born under bright lights, but in moments of solitude. In the early mornings, the late nights, the sacred hours no one ever saw. That 1 hour you give each day may seem small, insignificant, even invisible, but it has nothing to do with size. It has everything to do with planting something eternal. Every page you write, every lesson you share, every act you repeat with discipline and devotion, it all builds something far greater than the moment. It becomes a message, a compass for those who will follow. It becomes a signal to the world that says, this is the way. Your hour is not just about you. It is about what you leave behind, what you pass forward, what continues to live and breathe when you are no longer here to explain it. There was once a man who devoted one quiet hour every evening to writing reflections for his children. Lessons about patience, about love, about faith. He never published those words. He never sought recognition or fame. Yet when his time on this earth came to an end, his children discovered those pages, and in them, they found him again. They heard his wisdom. They felt his presence. They could almost hear his voice speaking to them, guiding them through life's storms. Those words shaped their choices, offered comfort in times of trial, and years later, they were shared with grandchildren. What began as one simple hour a day became a legacy that would touch generations. So let me ask you, are you building only for yourself, or are you building for something that will outlast you? Are your hours consumed by what is urgent, or are they invested in what is eternal? The world will not remember the deadlines you met or the meetings you attended. It will remember your contribution, and that contribution is crafted 1 hour at a time. Let your hour leave echoes. Let it scatter clues for those who come after you. Let it plant seeds in the soil of history, whether through words, through the mastery of your craft, through small acts of kindness, or through courage in the face of fear. Let your hour speak long after your voice is gone. You may never witness the fruit. You may never hear the applause, but your work, done with intention, will still whisper into the future. You are not merely a man. You are a message, a bridge, a builder. And when you dedicate 1 hour a day to building a legacy, you begin to shift the trajectory of entire bloodlines. You stop living as a mere consumer, and you start living as a creator, not only of content, but of culture, of values, of identity itself. This is not theory. It is practice, the steady practice of planting trees whose shade you may never sit beneath. It is the discipline of building paths that others will walk long after you are gone, perhaps without ever knowing your name, yet walking safer, stronger, and freer because you once stood where they now stand. Let your hour be an offering. It is a brick laid in a cathedral you will never see completed. It is a single note in a song that will still be sung long after your voice has faded. Because the man who devotes an hour each day to legacy leaves more than possessions behind. He leaves meaning. He becomes, in a sense, a father of nations, not merely through blood, but through belief. So keep showing up. Do it not just for today, but for tomorrow, and for those whose names you will never know, yet whose futures will be shaped by the seeds you plant in this hour. Let this hour become your quiet form of immortality. Turn it into a daily victory. Not the kind won on battlefields, but the kind forged in daily routines, in the quiet, consistent, and often unglamorous actions that build unshakable foundations. The hour you win each day is more than just a moment. It's a message, a declaration to the world, to your circumstances, and to yourself. I am not ruled by chance. I am led by choice. In that 1 hour, you step away from the constant pull of the world and step fully into the power of your own will. When you protect that hour, when you arrive in discipline, with focus, and anchored in purpose, you are stacking victories. They may not be visible right away, but they are felt deeply. They accumulate quietly beneath the surface, transforming into strength, confidence, and clarity. You do not need to change everything in a single day. You just need to win the hour. That single hour becomes your edge, your rhythm, your greatest advantage in a world drowning in distraction. There was once a young clerk. By every definition, he was ordinary. He wasn't the fastest learner. He didn't come from wealth. But he ended every single day with one unwavering commitment. He studied for just 1 hour. While others spent their evenings playing cards or wandering aimlessly, he opened books, turned pages, and filled them with notes. He asked questions no one else bothered to ask, questions that pushed his mind beyond the ordinary. He was never the smartest in the room, but he was the most consistent, and that consistency became his greatest advantage. Over time, it began to pay off. One dedicated hour brought clarity, and clarity opened the door to opportunity. He went on to open a business, then another, and eventually 10. Not because he stumbled into luck, but because, for years, he had quietly won an hour each day. No applause, no spotlight, just steady repetition and devotion to a cause far greater than comfort. That is what real winning looks like. Not noise, not drama, but the quiet strength of persistence. So ask yourself, when you finish your day, do you end it defeated or victorious? Did you spend your hour building yourself up or letting it drain away? That single hour is your flag, your personal banner in a world that thrives on distraction, delay, and discouragement. Face it each day. Defend it like a soldier guarding his post, because your dreams depend on it. Every time you choose that hour over excuses, you send a clear message that you are not a prisoner of mood or circumstance. You are the commander of your destiny, the builder of your own purpose, the keeper of an inner flame that refuses to die. Let that hour be your weapon, not to fight others, but to conquer the weakest parts of yourself. Laziness, fear, doubt, and procrastination. The results may not always be visible right away, but you will feel it, something stirring inside you. A shift, a strengthening, a deep stillness that, over time, grows louder and more unshakable. That is the sound of mastery. That is the echo of quiet triumph. Because the man who wins his hour ultimately wins his life. Not in a single, glorious battle, but in thousands of small ones, fought in silence and won in solitude. So draw the line. Mark the time. Light the lamp and begin. 1 hour, one choice, one victory at a time. Use this hour to prepare for life's inevitable trials. Every man will face them. Some will see them coming like distant thunder. Others will be ambushed in the stillness of night. But no man escapes the test. Pain will come. Pressure will arrive. Life, in all its brutal honesty, will challenge you. And the only man who does not fall is the one who trained before the war, not during it. That sacred hour you claim each day is more than just a block of time. It is your quiet preparation. It's not for vanity, and it's not for applause. It's for the unseen battles you will face. For storms you cannot yet predict. For betrayals you never saw coming. For resistance that will one day try to stop you in your tracks. And if you wait until the trial arrives to begin preparing, you've already lost precious ground. It will be too late. This hour is not only about sharpening your skills, it's about fortifying your spirit. It's the place where you build the muscle of resilience. Not in the chaos, but in the calm before it. Resilience is never born in the middle of a crisis. It is only revealed there. Its true construction happens in moments of peace, in the small daily choices, in the quiet, consistent disciplines that no one else sees. When you study, when you write in your journal, when you rehearse your vision day after day, you are layering armor over your soul. You are making yourself unshakable from the inside out. And when the storm eventually comes, as it always does, you will not be swept away in panic. Your roots will run deep. You will stand steady because you have already walked that battlefield in your mind. The chaos outside will never overpower the calm within. There was once a widow, a gentle, quiet woman with no public platform and no desire for the spotlight. Each evening, while others lost themselves in idle distractions, she opened her worn book of scripture. She memorized words of wisdom, reflected on their meaning, and prayed with intention. Friends teased her, calling it quaint, outdated, even sentimental. But she kept showing up, 1 hour a day, quietly, faithfully, without fail. Then came a tragedy so heavy it would have shattered most. But she did not collapse. She did not surrender to despair. Her spirit stood tall, anchored, steady, unmoved. The hour she had claimed each day had made her unbreakable. Her strength had not been forged in the fire itself, but long before it. And when the flames finally came, she walked through them untouched. So ask yourself, are you truly preparing for what is inevitable? Or are you quietly hoping life will somehow spare you? Because it won't. It never has. Life will test every one of us. But it always honors the man who honors his preparation. The one who trains when it's easy becomes the one who endures when it's not. He does not plead for an escape. He rises to meet the moment, unshaken, ready, because he has built himself for this very hour. Let your hour be your safe refuge. Let it become your personal training ground, not only for productivity, but for strength in every form, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Write down your thoughts to clear your mind. Sharpen your reasoning until it cuts through confusion. Speak truth to yourself, even when it is hard to hear. Take time to breathe, to meditate, to anchor your spirit in stillness. Read the timeless words that remind you of who you truly are. This hour is your shield. And with every showing, every repetition, you forge one more unbreakable link in the chain of your character. When others freeze in uncertainty, you will step forward. When others bend under pressure, you will stand tall. When others doubt everything, you will hold on to the clarity of your identity. Because the man who prepares in peace will never perish in chaos. He will overcome it. So do not waste this hour. Do not treat it as if it is optional or small. You are not simply passing time. You are planting seeds of strength, laying down a foundation, shaping the man the world will one day look to. Begin now, before the storm, before the war, because once it comes, there will be no time to start from scratch. And when that day arrives, you will not need to scramble for strength. You will already be it. Let this hour be the alchemy that turns time into meaning. Time itself is nothing more than a constant stream. It flows forward whether you are awake or asleep, deliberate or distracted. Time is neutral. It can be squandered, it can slip through unnoticed, or it can be filled, infused, with a purpose that transforms it completely. What gives time its true value is not its passing, but its purpose. That one sacred hour you claim each day is set apart, not because of the number of minutes it holds, but because of what you choose to pour into it. In your hands, those 60 minutes become a vessel, a container for your focus, your effort, your attention. And what you place inside will determine the life it produces. When you use that hour to reflect deeply, to create something meaningful, to grow in wisdom and discipline, you are breathing intention into time itself. And intention is what separates mere existence from truly living. Purpose turns ordinary moments into markers that last beyond the moment. A single focused hour can shift the course of your week, reshape your mindset, and redirect your future. This hour is not simply about getting ahead. It is not another tally mark in your productivity journal. It is not hustle for the sake of motion. This hour exists for alignment. Alignment with what truly matters, with what is real, with what is worthy of the strength, energy, and attention you have to give. There was once a postman, an ordinary man with an ordinary route. But each evening, before sleep claimed him, he would sit quietly with a pen and paper, writing a single page of reflection. Not to publish, not to impress, but to understand. He would ask himself, what did I learn today? Where did I grow? Where did I fall short? That small act, repeated day after day, sharpened his thoughts, refined his values, and slowly shaped the course of his life. He didn't simply move through life as if it were a checklist. He interpreted it. He translated his experiences into insight, turning ordinary days into lessons worth keeping. And in doing so, he built a depth of wisdom most people never touch. Not because they cannot, but because they never pause long enough to try. So I ask you, do you truly use your time, or does time quietly use you? Do you shape your hours with intention, or are they silently shaped for you by noise, urgency, and the demands of others? That 1 hour could be your answer. It can redeem the rest of your day. Even if the morning was scattered and the afternoon rushed, this single hour can bring you back to center. It can serve as the pivot point, the place where chaos ends and clarity begins. Let your hour be the moment that redeems the day. Let it hold your highest values. Honesty, courage, reflection, faith, discipline. Let it be the space where you stop performing for the world and return to yourself, to your mission, to your inner truth. Because once time is aligned with purpose, it becomes a mirror to the soul. It shows you who you really are. It reveals what matters most. It draws a sharp line between what is merely urgent and what is truly important. When you honor the hour, you honor your life. You begin to understand that life is not measured in years. It is measured in moments, deeply lived. And those moments are born from 1 hour, deliberately chosen, fiercely protected, and courageously kept. Use it not only to accomplish more, but to become more whole. Not only to achieve, but to align your outer actions with your inner values. Because when your time reflects your values, your life begins to reflect your soul. And that is the unmistakable mark of a life well lived, one sacred hour at a time. Elevate this hour into your personal daily standard. Standards are not just declared, they are proven. Not in loud proclamations or stirring speeches, but in quiet daily choices. Especially the ones you make when no one else is watching. The man who shows up, no matter how he feels, builds something far greater than skill or success. He builds a reputation with himself. Your 1 hour a day is your standard. It is the line you refuse to cross. It is not a hobby. It is not just another goal to check off. It is a declaration, This is who I am, regardless of how I feel. And every time you uphold that standard, you reinforce your identity, not in theory, but in practice. That's what makes it real. Not because the world sees it, but because you see it. And you are always watching yourself. You are always listening to what you do far more than to what you say. And each time you show up for that hour, tired, distracted, uncertain, you quietly become more certain of who you truly are. There was once a schoolboy. Ordinary in nearly every way, there was nothing remarkable about his grades, his athletic ability, or his appearance. But there was one thing everyone noticed. He had a stutter. His voice trembled, his words stumbled, and his sentences sometimes collapsed before they reached the end. The other children mocked him for it. His voice became the reason for their laughter, and eventually, their doubt. But instead of withdrawing, he made a private vow to himself. 1 hour a day, every single day, he would stand alone and practice. Sometimes it was in front of a mirror, sometimes in an empty classroom, sometimes to nothing but the silence of his room. His classmates laughed. Teachers underestimated him. But he kept his standard, not for a week, not for a month, but for years. That quiet consistency transformed him. His speech grew sharper, his confidence deeper. The voice that once broke under pressure became strong, clear, and commanding. Years later, that same boy stood before thousands as a senator. And the voice that once struggled to form a sentence now had the power to move nations. His peers never saw the lonely hours of practice, never witnessed the discipline behind the scenes, but they felt the impact of the results. Because the standards you keep in secret will always produce victories the world can see. So ask yourself, are you ruled by fleeting emotion or by unwavering conviction? Do you move only when it's convenient, or because it's necessary? Are you waiting for the perfect moment to feel ready, or are you training yourself to be ready no matter what? Let your hours speak louder than your moods. Let that hour become a promise you never break. Because the gap between average and exceptional is rarely about talent. It is almost always about standards. And your standards are not set when life is easy. They are set in the moments when it's hard to keep them. That hour is your battlefield. Not against other people, but against comfort, against excuses, against the whisper that says, it's fine to skip today. It doesn't matter. It matters. Because with every choice you make, your standards are either being strengthened or weakened. Keep the hour, not for quick results, not for applause or recognition, but because that hour defines you. And each time you honor it, you are telling yourself a truth you can live by. I can be trusted. I finish what I start. I show up, even when I don't feel like it. That self-trust, that unshakable belief in your own follow-through, is the foundation of all greatness. Because when life suddenly demands more from you than you think you have, you won't be scrambling to find strength. You'll already have it. Strength built in the quiet, forged in discipline, shaped in that one sacred hour. Let others guess how you became the person you are. Let them wonder where your resolve comes from. You will know. You will know it was born from a standard you refused to lower, a promise you refused to break. So raise the line. Guard that hour. Keep the vow. And one day, the world will feel the weight of what you did when no one else was watching. Shape that hour into a habit of honor. Honor is not a relic of the past. It is simply rare. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, speed, and spectacle, honor has grown quiet, almost invisible. Yet it is still alive, and it reveals itself not through grand gestures, but in the smallest, most consistent commitments. It is in the decision to keep your hour, not because it's easy, but because you said you would. When you keep that hour, you are building your life on the foundation of honor. You are proving that your word has weight, that your standards do not bend to convenience. You are drawing a line in the sand and declaring, this is who I am, even when nobody else notices. You may not feel like it, but you still show up. You may not see instant results, but you remain steadfast. Because honor doesn't concern itself with applause, it is loyal to integrity. And integrity means keeping your word long after the feeling that inspired it has faded away. There was once a soldier who served with distinction. Every morning, before the sun had even touched the horizon, he woke to prepare for battle. But even after the war ended, even after he returned to civilian life, he kept rising early. Not out of duty, not because anyone told him to, but because it had become a rhythm of dignity, a quiet oath to himself. Each morning, he rose before dawn, made his bed with precision, reviewed his goals, reflected, and prepared. That single hour, once born in the rigors of war, had become his compass. He didn't drift through his days. He lived them with clear intention. And though no one saluted him anymore, his life remained anchored in discipline and clarity. Because honor, once truly cultivated, does not vanish with changing circumstances. It becomes part of who you are. It becomes a part of you. Ask yourself, do you truly follow through on the promises you make to yourself? Or do you abandon them at the first sign of resistance? Do you allow your mood to dictate your commitment? Or do you let your character speak louder than comfort? The hour you keep each day is far more than a routine. It is the quiet backbone of who you are becoming. It is a vow, a daily oath, a private contract between the man you are today and the man you are determined to become tomorrow. It is not flashy. It is not loud. But it is real, and it builds something within you that no one can take away. Let this hour be a constant reminder that true honor begins with keeping your own word. Not because anyone else is watching, but because you are. You are the one who must live with yourself. And the only way to build genuine self-respect is to prove, day after day, that your word carries weight. Your promises are not casual suggestions. They are sacred agreements. We live in an age where quitting is easy, where flaking is normal, where breaking a promise to yourself is seen as harmless. But it isn't. Every broken promise chips away at the foundation of your character. Every kept promise strengthens it. This hour, kept faithfully, is how you rebuild trust with yourself. It is how you reclaim the confidence you once lost. It is how you establish a baseline of pride, not pride in how you look to others, but pride in your integrity. So let this hour be your personal declaration, not to the world, but to yourself. Let it say, I am a man who finishes what he starts. I show up when it's hard. I stand by my word. Honor is never something you are handed. It is something you live, something you choose, and it begins right here, with 1 hour. Repeated, defended, upheld. Let that hour lead you not only to progress, but to peace. The kind of peace that comes only when a man knows, deep down, that he is living in alignment with what is right. And in the end, that is what honor truly is, keeping your own word, no matter what. Let the hour lead the day, for the way you begin determines the direction you will go. Just as a ship's course is determined by the way it is launched, your day is shaped by its very first hour. If the beginning of your day is devoted to growth, clarity, and purpose, the rest of the day will naturally follow that rhythm, carrying the same momentum and strength. Let the hour lead, not trail behind. Because if you wait until evening, the direction of your day will already have been decided for you. By then, distractions will have multiplied, and countless demands will have drained your energy. The strength you needed to build your vision will have been spent on noise, on obligations, on things urgent but not important. But when you rise early and give your first light to your highest aim, you rewrite the story. You become the author of your day, not just a reader following someone else's script. In this way, your priorities stop being something you endlessly chase. Instead, they become something you command. You start your day from a place of intention, not reaction, from clarity, not confusion. There was once a factory worker. He had an ordinary job, long shifts, and little control over his schedule. Yet he made one quiet, powerful decision: to begin each morning in silence, with nothing but a pen and a blank page, 1 full hour before work began. He wrote about what he wanted, what he feared, and what he believed. Then, when the hour was done, he went to work. But something inside had shifted. He no longer felt owned by his labor. His mind was guided by clarity, anchored in the stillness of that sacred hour. And he carried the strength of that hour into every machine he operated, every meeting he attended, and every moment that passed. His hands may have worked hard, but his mind walked free. That first hour didn't erase his responsibilities, it simply reordered them. And that is the quiet power of the first hour. It brings order to chaos. It's a declaration to yourself and to the world: I lead my life. My life does not lead me. So ask yourself, who truly directs your day? Is it you, or is it your circumstances? Is your schedule shaped around your vision, or has your vision been buried under the weight of your schedule? If you want real power, begin with principle. If you seek peace, begin with order. The morning is your forge, shaping who you will be. The first light is your greatest teacher, offering clarity before the noise arrives. What you do with that light matters far more than anything that comes later in the day. Give your hour the first word. Before the texts, before the emails, before the world demands its share of you. In that stillness, listen to your own voice, your inner compass, your calling. Let that hour be your lighthouse, a steady beacon guiding the rest of your time. A signal to your soul that says, this matters. I matter. My future begins now. Because the day will always follow the man who begins it with strength. The hours will bend to the one who starts them with conviction. And when you fill that sacred space with reflection, vision, and discipline, you do far more than simply survive the day. You take command of it. You shape it. You walk with purpose. You decide with clarity. You speak with confidence. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it. You are no longer drifting. You are directing. Let this be your habit, your daily edge, your silent revolution. Rise with intention. Start with strength. Let the first hour belong to the very best in you. When you do, the rest of the day will follow. So start today. Set aside 1 hour, not for your job, not for the demands of others, but for your own growth. Guard it fiercely. Build with it daily. Treat it as sacred. Because a year from now, you won't remember the reasons you almost skipped it. You'll remember the transformation it created. 1 hour a day. That's where it all begins. Wishing you health, happiness, and the courage to claim your best hour each day. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.